Good to go.
Also presents. All right. So, farming is one of the most important parts of real estate. It will drive a lot of your sales along with your top 50 and prospecting. Farming is a type of prospecting, but in my opinion, it's one of the easiest ways for agents to break into a market as well as see good return on their investments. So let's go over what is a farm and selecting a farm. So first off, a farm is a zone of control that generally is between 200 and 500 homes. After you grow above 500 homes, it becomes very difficult to service them all well. I have this nice little photo. I don't think anybody can see it, so I'll actually abandon
it. Yeah, it'll be tough when you're sharing the screen because you're just a tiny little thumbnail on the computer.
So you want to find a zone that does not have a dominant agent within it. And by a dominant agent, I mean somebody doing between 20 and 30% of that market. So let's just take a small community, for instance, Meadows of Estero, just off of Corkscrew there. There's only about 100 homes. If somebody is selling 25 of those homes, either as the buyer or the listing agent, they're most likely the dominant agent, and breaking into there will become very difficult. You'll also want to have a higher turnover rate, generally in between 10 and 20%. This way, if you have a community at 300 homes, you want 30 of those homes to be constantly turning over year after year. It's also a good idea to have strong general knowledge of that neighborhood. I recommend that you theme each of these neighborhoods as you go about creating farms for them. So for instance, let's take Meadows of Estero. It's a nice condo community. You're going to want to make your farming based around those individuals, whether that's sending them yachting letters or stickers for restaurants and things around there, those types of things. Finally, it's very important to have a calendar where you're going to be doing the prospecting that we'll talk about in the next slide that actually works for you. So this means don't select a farm that's either too far away from you or has other risk factors that make it difficult for you to do so. So if it's a dangerous neighborhood or it's just inconvenient for you to get to, those types of things. Make sure that you have a plan and you stick to it. Next slide. Costs. Generally speaking, I like to assign each door between $2 and $3. Right now, prices are still rising. Can you guys see the, there we are. This is a quick breakdown. Feel free to screen capture this, but this is a rough estimate of how much it will cost for each farm. 5,000 being the low end if you're only doing 200 to 300 doors, 9 to 10 grand being the high end if you're doing 500 to 600 doors. Generally,
and you're talking an annual cost, right?
Annual cost, correct. These are all annually, so times 12 months, times 4, those types of things. So let's break down the costs and get into what you need to do to actually participate in making a great farm. That's prospecting over the phone, using mailers, and door knocking. Those are going to be your bread and butter. Now, a lot of agents don't like door knocking, and I'm going to be doing a separate training later today to try and bring you guys up to speed on some of the more modern techniques for door knocking. And postcards are becoming a lot less viable in today's market because more and more people don't like getting mail. I'm personally one of them. However, it is still very important if you want to keep these connections going within a neighborhood. So I like to do a postcard every other month to every month. And this doesn't have to be necessarily about anything. I like to send out just, hello, I'm Joe Hickey, I'm new to your area, or maybe I've been here for a while, whatever works for you, as a first introductory letter, and then follow that up by a phone call the following day or the following week when those go out. After that, those regularly scheduled postcards should stick to your theme of whatever your door knocking is. And we'll talk about that in a minute here. Property status update postcards are very important. As you continue to farm the location, you're going to start generating buyers and you're going to start generating listings. So whenever you get a property that has sold, that you put under contract, whatever that might be, you want that to be going out to people immediately. Generally speaking, I like to do under contracts more than I like to do just closed. Now, the reason for that is that you normally put a lot more properties under contract than you do actually get to closing. So at least people know that you're very active and you can keep those postcards rolling out very quickly. The quarterly updates are very similar to what we're doing here with our weekly updates about the market, saying what's going on, if there's any new construction in the area, maybe there's something amazing going on, like the Miami Heat's going to come play or something. Let everybody know and bring some type of value add with those quarterly updates. Finally, door knocking is very important. I only put one session of door knocking in for this initial farming, just because the cost is a little high. But to be honest with you, I like to do it every other month, but it doesn't cost me anything every month or every other month. It's just for those door hangers initially, which can be pretty pricey if you want to do them well. Finally, we have sponsored events. This is especially great if you're in kind of a gated community or a community that has a clubhouse that allows door knocking and all of the other farming techniques that you'll enjoy. I like to do like a 4th of July cookout or a Halloween event or something along those lines, that once you've gotten some listings in there or you've helped some buyers purchase some homes, it's a good idea to invite everybody back together to meet the neighbors, talk about things, and move forward. The more time you have within the neighborhood, the more likely you are to succeed. Timeframes and accelerations. It's very important that we keep a good mentality with this. Postcards, door knocking take a long time to actually see returns on, but they're a slow burning investment. Same with any farm. Think of it as a real garden. If you put a seed in, you're not going to see it grow up for at least a couple of weeks, if not a few months, which is most likely. If you're doing your farm correctly, you'll generally take about 10% of the market share within the first year, if not more. And then afterwards, you're going to be wanting to sit at that 25 to 30%. Of course, common knowledge, each home you sell or purchase will accelerate that process monumentally. So it's a good idea, if you already have an area where you're pretty concentrated, turn that into your farm, unless it doesn't meet one of those key criteria. Everybody likes to make their neighborhood their farm as well. You can. I don't see anything necessarily wrong with it. A lot of people say that they would rather not, or they rather would. It really just depends on what kind of relationship you already have with your neighbors and how well you know that area, how much time you're willing to dedicate to your area. I've placed these following bullet points. I've already talked to them slightly, but I think it's very important that you do door knock every other month, if not every month. You accelerate to semi-annually events. You have monthly mailers instead of once every other month or once every month. Try and send out 1 or 2 mailers every month that bring some type of value, whether or not that's a birthday card, a market update, let's go to lunch and talk about your property. Are you interested in investment properties? Those types of things. As long as you're bringing something to the table, you're less likely for somebody to throw away your card. The purpose of these is that you want to put something right on that envelope that will get somebody to open it, because 90% of the time when you see something in a postcard, you just chuck it in the recycle bin. So try and make that as pizzazzy as possible. And we'll do a separate training about mailers and door knockers here in a minute. And finally, online competitions or vendor days. These are both fantastic. A lot of people don't really want to talk to a real estate agent because they're just not at that point in time where they're willing to sell or buy. And they know that at the core value of it, you're making money off of them. So I like to bring as much value as possible. That might be partnering with a roofer or an electrician or someone like that, who for a day or two, you pay for the services in the community, or you might buy 100 American flags for Veterans Day and go put them on everybody's mailbox area, or whatever that is, something that sponsors them. And then your competitions can be small gift cards or coupons or things. But when you do your mailer, put a little QR code. The first 300 people that get their CMA through me are entered into a raffle. 5 of them will get a $20 gift card or coupon to Starbucks. Those actually see a lot more hit rates the value add that you bring is immediately there, and you can actually get quite a few people to give you their information. Moving on, growth. So let's say that you're doing pretty well with your farm. A small attended farm is always better than growing to 500 homes immediately and getting a bunch of weeds. As you continue to progress out of that 400 to 600 range, you're going to need to add a partner. And I'd always recommend, for safety and just for efficiency, taking somebody with you whenever you're door knocking or cold calling or whatever that is, just to keep you guys on task. But after you get to that 500 to 600 range, you're gonna need somebody there with you to help you cover that area. Split the difference between neighborhoods. What I mean by this is that you don't need to cover our large areas of Southwest Florida specifically. So Pelican Landing is a great example of this. It's a very large neighborhood just south of us. They have different types of homes sectioned by community. And there's nothing wrong with being known for the person who sells all of the condos, or the villa person, or the person who does all of one street. Because if you're dominant in whatever area you do, it will become second nature to you to pick up that phone and have a discussion with them. So feel free to just focus on one type of home that you find is very interesting to you or has the highest return. Finally, 500 is just a number. These are all just great ideas or guidelines. But if you're a real go-getter and you say, Joe, listen, I can do 750, I have the cash on hand, I have the drive, go for it. If you know that your neighborhood is smaller and you only want to stick to 300, go for that as well. Don't ever be pigeonholed by what you read online and what other people are saying. It's more important that with some information, you go out and start making moves than it is for you just to continue to read for 10 years and never sell a house. Finally, evaluating. Whenever you're looking at making a growth cycle within a community, evaluate where you stand. A lot of agents become the dominant agents in territories or neighborhoods, but those neighborhoods aren't seeing the returns that they need to anymore. Just because you were the dominant agent of a neighborhood for the past 10 years doesn't mean that you can go somewhere else. A lot of new construction is happening in our area. A lot of those areas don't have dominant agents yet because they don't quite have that turnover to make it work. But in 2 or 3 years, that might be worth your time and your energy and your money. So look always to be transitioning. A farm is only as good as the work that you put into it. Closing thoughts. I really want to make this quick because we're going to get into some math here to make this work. Start where you're comfortable, make the money count, work hard and work as efficiently as possible. And the more work you put in is always better. Tie everything that you know in real estate together, put as many things together as you can, and just get started. Don't sit on your hands, just get started. And of course, safety first. So we went into quite a bit about how to actually start and grow your farm, but now let's start working on the math of this, which I wanted to actually send out to everybody separately. So get with me after the meeting, pick out your farms, and we'll go through this and do the budgeting separately. That way it works for everyone. But let's say that your community has 300 homes selling selling at the average of $400,000. So take all the homes, $400,000. Average turnover rate of 10%. That's 30 homes selling at 400,000. You make an average of 2.5% on each sale. Take into account also that those 30 homes are both being sold and purchased. So really there's 60 transactions that you could be a part of in that community. Don't limit yourself to those 30. Break down the math. So at 2.5%, there's $12 million being sold at 60 transactions of 400,000. Maybe my math's wrong, but correct me if I'm wrong. You're averaging about 10,000 per sale. Say your splits at the 70%, you're making 7,000 times 60. You're doing very well for yourself. Your cost is about $10,000. So the farm is really a great way to start growing your wealth. And now I know I'm throwing around numbers very quickly there, and it's important that you go through and do that math for yourself, as well as some great links to actually getting those people's numbers and email addresses, walking your dog in that neighborhood, anything that you can do to grow is fantastic. So that's really the farming 101. We'll delve into more detail in farming 2, or if you guys are ready to actually progress and build your own farms, please hit me up on the side and we'll work that out ourselves. Perfect. Stop recording.
Thanks, Joe. Well, yeah, it is. You can keep recording because I think the questions will be, unless you've already stopped it. But I think that the questions will be valuable as well. So thank you. I mean, I think that's all amazing information and puts a lot of things in perspective. One of the questions that I have for you is, you highlighted door knocking as a pretty critical component of farming. And one of the challenges that we have in Southwest Florida is gated communities, right? So, and a lot of them have no solicitation rules, et cetera. And so from your perspective, I just wanted to get your take on, is it better to find a farm where you don't have that challenge, one that you can freely go and door knock? Is that as important as figuring out turnover and what, if an agent has a majority share, et cetera? Not
at all. Those no soliciting signs, not actually going up to people's doors. The time where your vacuum salesman would actually walk up and knock on your door is gone. Door knocking has progressed massively to the point at which I would recommend only knocking on people's doors once every other month, or not at all if there's no solicitation. Most of the communities in our area, how do I put this? Door knocking just means meeting somebody face to face in our modern environment, which is very difficult for most people. But a lot of our areas, especially the ones that have no solicitations, host events, have big public meeting areas, or often are generally active older folks. So if you need to door knock a neighborhood that doesn't have the no soliciting, grab the dog, grab a friend, and walk around the neighborhood and talk to every single person that you see. Go rent out the golf course and play a few holes with people that you've never played with before. Sit at the clubhouse, go in the pool, whatever that is. It's all about getting in front of the people and having real estate conversations, whether or not it's just an introductionary, hey, I'm Joe and I like this neighborhood and I sell a few houses in here, or a real in-depth CMA. I would always recommend you bring your laptop and some, little marketing materials, but I by no means think that you should cut out places that have non-solicitations in them, especially if you live in that community.
Sure. Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
What other questions for Joe?
Can you repeat what a good turnover rate is?
So you generally want about 10% turnover rate. 8% is as low as I would go, and I would want to see, that these houses are worth at least $500,000 to $1 million. The highest that I would also go is about 20%, because if there is a mass exodus from a community, there's normally a very good reason why, and it becomes very dangerous to get into that community at that point. If you see 20%, definitely don't go there.
I remember I had a listing the one time in Renaissance, and it was like, it was in a cul-de-sac where there were 6 homes and 4 of them were on the market for sale. And like everybody was like, what's wrong? Why, why is everybody leaving here? Like, where, what am I not seeing? And so that's a valid point.
Yeah. Other red flags when you're doing a farm is if there's a large diversity of homes within a small concentration of area. So for instance, let's take a look at San Carlos Park. It's an area that's under a lot of development. There's a lot of brand new homes going in, and there's a lot of older homes going in. There's a lot of people who are renting and a lot of investors who are purchasing up to 40 homes at a time and renting them out to all of the college kids. You want to be talking to the decision makers whenever you're spending money and time on these things. So if 90% or even let's just go with 20% of the homes don't have the decision maker readily available for you to contact, it's very unlikely that you'll see the numbers of returns that you want. So don't go to areas that have high investor concentration, high rental concentrations, or are very seasonal. We do see a lot of seasonal neighborhoods in our area. If more than 30% or more of the average community resident isn't there for most of the year, all of your mailers are being wasted on nothing. All of your phone calls are going to be delayed. Don't waste your time. Don't waste your money.
That would be a large majority of the communities.
Can be. You need to sort that out. A lot of the places that have these dominant agents, the reason that they're dominant is because they have set themselves so entrenched in these areas that they're okay with waiting the 7 months for the snowbird to come back. If you're starting a farm, you don't have that luxury of wasting almost 70% of your budget. You need to find somewhere where, even if it's smaller, start with 100 homes, but you sell 10, that's pretty good for most agents. If you can find a neighborhood where it isn't seasonal, around 300 homes, that's almost a perfect starting location. All right. Does
Great.
anybody else have any questions?
One of the, as you were talking about investment in a particular farm, I know this to be quite true, is that sometimes we have to look at things as investments and not costs too, right? So, if you're considering getting into a farm, you have a specific area based on your research and what Joe had talked about, that looks like it's a good, could be a good potential. Start to think about, you're looking at return on investment. So sometimes people see $5,000 to $9,000 and like, that's a lot of money, can't do that, won't do that. But if you start to break it down, it's like, okay, well, that's over the course of an entire year. And if I stick to a plan that is put together and actually do all of the activities associated with it, how many deals do I need to be able to pay for that? And most of the time the answer is one. Real estate is one of those amazing careers where one sale can justify a lot of marketing dollars, right? And so then once you start getting your second, third, fourth, fifth, et cetera, sales, then that's all money in the bank. So, you've got to look at it from that perspective and not just like I don't really want to spend anything in that, on doing that particular thing. So just, I want to bring that up because I know that can be a block a lot of times. And Jared James, he's a in the real estate coaching world, he talks about, there's one of two ways to grow anything, and it's either sweat equity or equity, and so you can bootstrap things by doing all of the hard work and actually doing the sweat equity, or you can, pay to do things. And what typically works is a combination of the two, right? So being smart with how much you invest in something, as well as how much effort and work that you put in. But this has been really good.
I would just add one thing, and that is that the equity without the sweat equity is generally not going to work. So, a lot of people want to throw money at things and think that that's the answer. And the reality is that it's not going to get anything done.
Mm-hmm.
Good point. Anything else for Joe?
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Thank you. So we'll, I don't know, when is part 2?
Whenever you guys are ready. I would actually love to start breaking down the math, getting into like the different mailer concepts, all of those things. That can take easily another 30 minutes.
And so you had also offered that, as part of what you're doing for the team and for Gulf Point, is that you're in charge of training, and helping people through things. So if you'd like to sit down and go over and analyze what could work for you, that's what Joe is here for. He's happy to sit down with you and go over that one-on-one and help you define what that is and how to be successful in it.
Correct.
Hey, Joe.